Hey everyone, welcome to Grain Therapy, the woodworking podcast where we discuss our passions, methods, and personal growth as we build our woodworking businesses. Today we talk about the technical specs of the steam bent cabinet I've been working on and Brian's vaulted Art Deco gaming table. We also get into working for the right clients and how to find those clients, as well as sharing progress updates with those clients and the motivations behind that and how it drives the project. Finally, we wrap up by talking about quoting for friends and the pressure that puts on the quote and how you want to do the project for them, but you need to make it worth it, right? This podcast can be found anywhere you like to listen. If you find value in it, please leave us a comment or review. So sit back and watch, listen while you work, or put us on in the background. Either way, we hope you enjoy. So I saw a can. What are you drinking? I'm going to start it off just like I did last week.
That's a classic. So this is one of my favorite beers, Foggy Geezer Warfare. So it's the AZ India Pale Ale, and they got cool art.
That's a good restaurant order. If you don't recognize anything else on the menu and you see Foggy Geezer, you can just rely on that.
Oh yeah,
nice.
Yeah, how about you? Same whiskey?
No, never the same. This is a bourbon. It's called Penelope, toasted barrel. So they like burn the barrel lightly before they put it in the main thing, and then they put it in a normal charred barrel strength, so it's nice and hot, 110 proof. So
yeah,
I don't have a lot of power tools I'm going to be using tonight. I'm just going to be doing some finishing, so it's okay if I get a little tuned up during this.
So you're on the finishing stage. So you're so you're doing some finishing.
I'm doing some finishing. Yeah. So I want to get the doors to the custom glass shop.
Yeah. Back up. What's your project? Start there.
So step one, I'm building it's a hutch is what my sister's calling it, but I'm just calling it a cabinet. It's a 74-inch tall by 38-inch wide by 16-inch deep with the doors cabinet for a dining room. Next to their kitchen. They have a kind of a compact kitchen in Minneapolis.
This is for a client. So this wasn't like your last cabinet where you just built your own design.
Right.
Yeah. So this was like somebody, you went over the design with them before you started the project.
Exactly. Cool. And yeah, we could even take a step back even further to the design stage, which is kind of the most fun for me. But with this project, I kind of had to just do a replica in a way, which hurts always a little bit. Yeah. So they sent me something from, I forget if it was Room and Board or somewhere. And they said, hey, what would it take for you to make this, but make it out of hardwood and make it nicer and change up the legs and stuff. And I was like, okay, like I can do that. So I made everything almost identical, except I didn't use any ply. It uses a lot of plywood in that. That's actually a lie. I did use plywood just on the drawer boxes.
Oh, that doesn't count. That hardly counts.
I'm not going to do hardwood drawer boxes. So I've got birch ply in the sides and the bottom of the drawer boxes, but then I've faced the top, you like edge banded them with walnut to kind of give a two-tone thing. So, and then the drawer faces are white ash. So they want to save a little bit in the budget there by going with white ash, and I've used it before and I don't mind it. It looks, if you get the right grain, it looks pretty close to white oak too. So, yeah, so it's a tall unit, fairly wide too. So I got to change the leg design, and I went with I actually stole the leg design off the previous cabinet I designed myself, like the fully from scratch one.
Okay.
So pretty nice straight legs with a slight taper, and they have some half lap cross on the stretchers between the front and the side. And so the top of the leg has grooves cut out in the shape of a plus. And so the leg sticks through, and then the stretchers come down into the grooves at the different.
So bridle joint.
That's probably the technical way that I should be calling it. Yes, bridle joint.
Hey, we're gonna learn a lot of that stuff together, because I think a lot of times I do things where I'm just like, this is what it does because of strength reasons, and then I find out that that's a real thing.
It's a real thing. That makes you feel kind of good when you basically invent something that already exists too. So does a bridle joint have a half lap of the crossing members in between?
Yes, I think usually it does. So I've seen them. I've seen them two ways. So like if it's got the two edges coming together perpendicular, the parallel to the ground. If they're the same height, then it needs a half lap in between the bridle. But I've seen it where they're actually different heights. So then it's just
then you could just do like a
half lap on one, and you don't do any joint on the other. So yeah, depends on the design, but yeah, it sounds like you're definitely doing just a
that is a bridle joint. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's nice because it keeps everything pretty nice and square too during the glue up.
Mm-hmm.
As long as your half flaps are sound, it's all pretty sweet. So we got that on the legs, and then the base of the unit is 6 drawers, and they're roughly I'm just going over dimensions that I don't need to share here, but you can fit some plates and bowls and everything in them. So 6 drawers, and then there's a divider in the cabinet that kind of divides the drawer section on the lower half to the upper half, which is open shelving. And so that's at counter height. So like 32 inches or 36 inches. I forget what average counter height is. And then the top half is all open shelving. The lower shelf is adjustable on pins, and then the upper shelf is fixed. And that's partially structural, which is the transition from the straight section of the cabinet into the half circle top. So the top is a steam bent hardwood glue up made out of walnut strips that I cut on your bandsaw. So thank you. So that's the whole structure. And then the back matches the drawer faces, and that's white ash as well. So everything's walnut and white ash except for the drawer boxes, which is a birch ply.
Okay. So you did so it's a full arch, like a full round on the top. How'd you do? So you steam bent the arch on the doors, and that's what's right down the middle. So you've got kind of like a quarter arch on both sides, and then the case. How'd you get that curve?
So on the doors, that's actually a straight glue up from a template that I made based on the actual carcass. So the main case of the cabinet, that's a whole big steam bent piece. So it's a 15.25 inch wide by roughly 3/4 inch thick steam bent piece. So that's the whole top of the cabinet. The door is actually just a glue up that I found some pretty nice straight grain, and then I didn't want any weakness in the grain because I have that quarter. So the doors divide the cabinet in half, and I have a half circle on top. So you divide that in half, you have a quarter circle in each door. So I didn't want the grain to go straight at any one of the joints, especially because then I'm going to have some weak spots so that I can just blow out with a 2-inch thick piece face frame. So it's the whole face frame's 2-inch thick all the way around, and then it comes together in the center. So I've got 2 90s at the bottom because it's rectangle, and then it comes up to the top, and it goes straight into the arc. And then it's all half lap joints on the door face. And then that grain is just running. It would be tangent to the quarter circle. So it'd be if you drew kind of a triangle to kind of reference the top circle. So that way the grain never turns straight grain. It always has at least 45 degrees or so.
Okay, cool.
So it's a little stronger. And then when I get the glass set in there, that'll kind of help with anything else. So
yeah.
Okay.
So so the big so I'm curious how. So it's a design that was picked for you. So it's not really like a whole lot of like new things, but like so obviously the steam bending was new for you. Are there any other like skills that were like, I'm not super comfortable with this, but we're gonna see how it goes?
Yeah, mostly the steam bent, and then I'd never used undermount slides before actually.
Undermount, is that the Bloom?
The drawer slide. So I didn't go with Bloom. I tried out the Rockler first.
Okay.
The Bloom run about 45 a pair, I believe. I've got 6 of them, and with the way I priced it out, I didn't want to put that in, and they were going to be buying one with side not even soft close drawer slides already. So I'm already, everything I'm doing, I'm trying to upgrade from the listing they sent me. And so these are the Rockler undermount, which are very similar to the Bloom. And I haven't tried them out before. So that was kind of a fun attempt, and it's been going well so far. I have it all dry fit, and then I took it all apart, and then you kind of forget how well it fits. So hopefully when everything goes back together, I've got everything numbered right. But I think they're doing well. And then other things that are new, I guess I've got the back panel on this cabinet is solid wood, but it's pretty thin because my rabbiting bit, I could have went out and ordered a deeper rabbet to cut my groove for the door in the back, or maybe just run some kind of other bit, a router bit to cut that. But I didn't have one, and I also didn't leave enough material in the design to have a really deep back. So I wanted the back panel to be around 3/8 thick. So gluing up a big panel 38-inch wide I think I have it in 2 sections in case of expansion.
Okay.
But either way, gluing up a 30-inch wide by roughly 50-inch tall panel of 3/8 thick white ash was pretty difficult.
Yeah, it's hard to keep flat.
Yeah. So luckily I have enough space that I was intending to block these in anyway I want it possibly removable in the future. So I'm going to tack little blocks in to keep this thing in place. So even if there is some slight whip to this white ash, it'll be pushed flush, and there is a groove, so you won't see any open line. It's all going to be direct shadow line. If there was any light coming through, you wouldn't be able to get through. So I'm not worried about the flatness of the panel anymore. But when I first glued it, it's a hard glue up.
Yeah.
The thicker the material, the nicer it is. So
yeah. So you have just you around the arch and all down this flat where you get the 90 degrees at the bottom, you just rabbited out that whole backside and then just glued it into place. Okay.
Well, and I'm not planning on gluing that back into place.
Oh, you're not? Oh, I see what you're saying. So that's why you got the blocks. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to do walnut. I'll probably cut some walnut angle, almost like a quarter round, but it'll be some triangle, like 45 degrees cut. And I'll just back it in just to brace that back in. And then if there's any reason to take it off for some reason someday, I hope there wouldn't be. But if it maybe loses color or something, I can't picture what could happen. But on that back panel, I was originally going to glue up the whole thing as one piece too, but I want the grain direction the same as the grain matched drawer faces that I have. So I've got the white ash on the bottom half of the cabinet, and I've got grain match across the 6 drawers because I did one big panel and then cut them up. So I wanted that same grain direction, and I didn't want any expansion blowing out the sides of the cabinet because the wood's going to expand most along the width, right? Yeah. So my counter height piece that divides the drawer section and the shelf section of the cabinet is about 1.25 inches thick. So I'm dividing this back panel into 2 pieces, and then I'll have a almost 3/4 inch gap, I think, in between the 2 with no bracing. And then if those need to breathe at all, both big panels can kind of expand into that section versus blowing the top or bottom off the cabinet.
Got it. Okay. So you're covering it with that divider. So that's how.
Yeah, that divider, you won't be able to see it from the back or from the front. From the back, you'll see the walnut through it, but it's that shelf. So it'll be not noticeable.
Okay.
So that's another.
How would you? So it's difficult to do this 3/8 panel. How do you think you'd do it different next time, or would you?
I think I might leave an extra 1/4 inch, make the cabinet just a 1/4 inch deeper, go up to a 1/2 inch panel, and then I'll have more weight on the back side of the cabinet anyway. One thing I do need to worry about is how much weight is going to be in the drawers if they can open multiple drawers at the same time.
Sure.
Along with the doors being overhung at their max. So there's going to be a tipping moment on those front feet. So with the previous cabinet I made, it's a shorter cabinet and the drawer is slightly different, but it's higher up on the cabinet and the doors are solid wood and they're a little heavier. The Manhattan
Mm-hmm.
cabinet, you can go and look on Instagram if you want to see it. Whiskey Wood Shop. Anyway, so I tested it with it empty and I could put about 19 and a half pounds, 20 pounds on the shelf, on the end of the shelf before it started doing any type of tipping
Mm-hmm.
with everything fully extended and the doors at their max reach. So I wasn't too worried about it. Plus, if the cabinet's in use, there's going to be something else in the cabinet. And then as soon as you start stocking the cabinet, the weight goes up to the max of the drawer slides anyway.
Yeah.
So that was part of it that I was thinking about too. So it's part of the reason I have slightly thinner drawer faces and the doors. I'm going to do a pretty thin glass, just lightweight. And from what I've seen online, the thinner the glass, the clearer it looks too.
Yeah.
So
Cool. Yeah. So there's a lot of thought into this. Like when you look at it, like relatively, it looks like a simple, straightforward design. You got like a lot of thought into this.
Yeah, I don't want it to blow apart. I'm trying to build it to last, especially if they didn't want. They sent me a picture of a nice looking cabinet, and I said it needs to cost more than the listing they sent me in order for me to build it, and they still went with me. So I think that's part of it too. I'm trying to not leave any stone unturned for detail and just make it functional while still not being overly complicated. I don't want to add too many details. I don't know what else I would have done on that back panel other than suggesting ply, but I really didn't want to go with ply. And I think the grain direction is just going to be nice and consistent as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to look awesome with I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of solid wood panels that I make myself, but yeah, they come with inherent risks, and so it's just so you got to make sure you think through all of the steps and look at it from every perspective, and especially like if it's a a nice piece of furniture, you want it to last a long time, and it's not even, it is about the customer and making a nice high quality product for them too. But at the end of the day, if we can be honest with ourselves, it's also about like making sure nothing happens to it, and then we're back and dealing with it. So
I don't want to get a call saying I need to fix something. I just don't want to deal with it. If it blows apart, I won't even want to fix it. I would just make them a new one or something, which would be terrible. But
a lot harder. Yeah. Well, cool. So you happy with where you're at? And
I wish it was moving a little faster, but I've been busy with my own projects. Like we were talking about the outdoor kitchen that I was working on last week. So I'm trying to balance that while I still have time before the snow comes to try to finish that out and just, get everything done. They're a little more relaxed because it is my sister and her husband. So I'm still within the window that I said I would deliver it, so I'm not panicking. But, I wish things were moving a little faster, but it's just that same thing we've been talking about, not rushing it toward the end. And this is probably the best I've done staying on that of not rushing it, where other projects have been cruising to a deadline. So,
yeah. Cool. Yeah. And so not rushing it, just to go over it again, looks like you just not panicking. I mean, as part of it, but also like, are you checking every detail again, like going over everything? And, is there a thought in your head that you have to remind yourself of, like when you're trying to slow down?
I think I've said it a couple times on this already, but I just always say out loud now. In the last couple weeks, I've been saying it out loud. I say slow is smooth, smooth is fast. It's a pretty popular saying. I think the military started using it first. I don't know where it came from, but I'll say that out loud to myself now. Like slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Just to like calm myself down. Because you get excited. You want to see it with finish on it. But if you do them in the wrong order, it's any steps in the wrong order, you've taken 2 steps back because you might have to fix something or any of that.
Yeah. So you're just combing, fine tooth comb time, where you're just kind of going through everything, making sure you hit every box that you intended at the beginning of the project.
Yeah. And there are a couple adjustments I've had to make too. Where the steam bend comes into the flat face of the cabinet, I wasn't super happy with that gap, and I might have talked about this with you in the past. I just added a brass inlay.
Oh, okay, cool. So that's on the face or the outside of the case?
So it's on the outside of the case,
Yeah.
where that steam bend, that cut was really hard to square off the steam bend on both sides. It's 38 inches apart or diameter. Yeah. So keeping them perfectly square was hard. They are square this direction, but then there was a slight walk that happened on the one side of a blade. So then it was just enough to be a 16th or less of an inch, but I couldn't close that gap, and I didn't want to fill that with sawdust because it was very, very obvious where it was. So just hogged out with a router. I went with 3/16 inch thick piece of brass square rod, and then glued that in place. And I'm hoping it doesn't have any issues. After I glued it and I got inside, I remembered I just glued a metal piece in the direction of the width of the grain.
Yep.
Right. Yep. So slight worry there, but
what'd you glue it with?
CA glue.
CA glue. Find out. Time will tell on that.
Uh-oh, that's not too promising. Yeah.
I think it'll be okay because you said it's 16 inches deep.
Yeah, that's 15 1/4. Yeah, right there.
So that's not going to be. I mean, that's not a huge amount of.
No, it'll expand like
that way. So I think it'd be good.
16th. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did that on the top where the steam bend meets the flat face. Mm-hmm. So right there, it's at about shoulder height, let's say, on the average person. And then I did on the bottom as well, just to kind of give just the bottom corner, just to give like a continuity of the, like, why is this brass piece there? Now it kind of looks more like a feature.
Yeah.
So did 4 of those, one for each base and one for each seam there. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a perfect recovery for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I called them and said, hey, this wasn't in the plan, but I pretty much need to do this. Are you cool with it? So, and they were on board. So,
yeah. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah. So, any other like challenges that you didn't expect with it?
This one's a little heavier than the stuff I've been making recently, so moving it around nicely is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
So, all that.
Yeah. Hopefully, you got a nice dolly or something, but
yeah, it's just about getting it on the bench and then off the bench
without denting it and banging it on corners. Yeah. That's tough.
So, right now I kind of put it up against the bench on the backside and just tip it and slide it up, and it's been fine. Mm-hmm. It is the back, so I can sand it more aggressively and not feel bad, but sure. yeah, it should be all right.
So whenever I'm working with big pieces, I haven't like stated this anywhere or actually even shared it, but it's been helping me a lot. So I get the that underlayment for like your carpet, where it's like it looks like perforated, just that matrix, really soft. I get that, and every time I'm moving stuff around, I lay that on whatever surface I'm laying my piece on, mm-hmm. and then I pull that out from under it to get it on the table if I need to. Do it. So I just have that underlayment carpet stuff all over my shop.
So it's not the grippy stuff; it's the
stuff like you put it in your like where you store your glasses in your cup in your cabinet upside down, so like it lets water get out and breathe.
Sure. It's got all the holes in it and everything.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just have that all over my shop, so when I'm moving stuff, I'm not banging in the corners, and it works really well.
Nice. Yeah, I've been okay with corners. I mean, in the past, I've dropped stuff, like finish a side table, drop it. It's like what's going on, but everything can happen. So you just gotta move along. But how's your big project going? Why don't you go into the depths of from the design all the way until where you're at?
Sure. Yeah. So there's a lot. It's a big table, lots of detail, lots of over the top inlay and design. So it's a gaming table, vaulted gaming table. So if anybody's familiar with the wormwood table, which I think you might be, mm-hmm. So it's similar in concept, where they've got the case of the table, the aprons are about 8 inches deep, 4 legs, and then so leaves that go on top. And just like the wormwood table, where they've got like a mechanical mechanism to raise the inner table to be flush, this one has linear actuators to do that. So a lot of the details are, I did really fancy legs. They're like miter folded around the outside with inlay that wraps around that 90-degree miter. And I designed them that way, which I think is like, that was one of the things I was really excited about in the design, where I hadn't seen legs like that on the table, and they serve two functions, both like really aesthetic, different. I haven't really seen legs be, wrapped around the outside of the corner of a table. But then it also doubles as hiding those linear actuators in the four corners.
Yeah.
It doesn't completely hide them. I had to build little boxes around those too, just so you're not seeing a mechanical piece under there as it's raising up and down. But yeah, so linear actuators, raising inside table, the leaves. It's a 5-leaf table. I think the total dimensions of the top are 96 by 62 inches. So it's huge. It's a very big table. And then on the outside, underneath the play surface, there's a metal inlaid track. So I'm going to make a bunch of accessories that magnet onto it, snap onto it. So this thing's got like all the bells and whistles. Inside the vault, around the outside edge, there's a cutout that cuts all the way through that inner wall, and that's going to be backlit by LEDs. And so that pattern mimics the pattern that's inlaid on the legs a little bit.
Is that going to be white LEDs or colored or
programmable ones that
there you go.
Hopefully be able to control on a smartphone and just change it for whatever game they're playing or whatever mood they want. And then the top has like an inlay that continues across all 5. So it's an Art Deco design that we looked at a lot of different references, and then I designed it myself. And I had a really large CNC cut out the design. So I worked with a local company who had a 8 by 4 foot shop saber, which is definitely a machine I'm going to be getting in the future someday. Can't be enough. So they cut that out for me, and then I've just been filling in all that inlay by hand. And it's just
that's your favorite part of the project, probably.
I think that's the thing I'm the most excited about is the inlay on the top, and just how big and wild that design is going to be.
For sure.
I think just in the inlay on the top, and I'm not even done yet. I'm at like 60 hours just cutting strips and then putting it in there and sanding it flush. And I've got probably another 20, so it's a lot.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
And just every piece of the table that you look at, it's a lot of work, and that's just my speed. So it's fun.
Nice. So that's all. The main structure is walnut, right?
Everything's walnut except the case. Like, so I've got a plywood on the bottom. That's the non-moving table, right? Just in case that's a walnut ply, and then I've got Baltic birch as the inner table that I'm going to cover with neoprene. So everything other than that is walnut.
Okay.
Well, and then the inlays are different species too. But.
Yeah, you've got a variety of colors in the inlays. So the neoprene you mentioned, is that going to be black or white or a color?
So it's going to be, I think it's going to be black. I got a double-sided one, so it's got black on one side and a dark gray on the other, and we're going to kind of, once we finish on the vault walls, I'm going to put that in a picture and send it to the client and see if his decision has changed. But right now, tentatively black. And
I think black makes sense. And a previous one you built, you did black, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It looked really sweet with black.
And that black, I mean, was contrasted against all those other colors too, so that like really brought out the other colors. With walnut, I think it'll still look cool, but it's not gonna. Yeah, we'll see. It's got the LEDs back there too, so it might just really contrast against that too.
Right. Is there anything special you had to think about with the LEDs? Like, if Are they going to be accessible in the future if they need to be replaced, if they go out or anything, or?
So yes and no. It's kind of a tough one. So I've got their battery operated ones, and I'll like leave a little compartment on the other side of the table to get it, just replace like 3 AA batteries to
Mm-hmm.
keep those going. The linear actuators are run on like a 12-volt battery, just that's hung in the center underneath, which is a whole other thing. I initially wanted to have the LEDs run off of that too.
Oh,
That could be recharged, but I talked to one of my electronic friends, and so yeah, electronics is way out of my like comfort
okay.
zone, and so I'm
Yeah.
just taking it bit by bit. And so he said like there's a middle piece of technology that you got to get to like make that
Work
work
down
nice.
to that
So
voltage. Yeah.
I just kind of backed away from that.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, so because this client has this table's going in his basement of like an older home, so we gotta sneak it down there, and it's a really narrow hallway. So this whole thing is going to be disassemblable and assemblable. So it's all threaded
Mm-hmm.
inserts the whole way, which is different for me. It's new for me. It's actually, at, initially at the beginning of the build, I thought that made it harder because like, oh, here's more details that I have to
Mm-hmm.
like figure out and make sure that everything's lined up enough where if it does ever get taken apart and put together again, it's still going to fit the exact same way. And like, how do I make
Mm-hmm.
sure all of that happens? But I've actually been really surprised with how nice it's all going. So that's
Nice.
been really cool. Um, so that's how we'll. So because of that, the like upper rails that are horizontal around the vaults where you'd like lean your elbows on, um, I have 2 walls that thing sits on top of, and then actually has a like a tenon coming from it, so it fits like a
Sure.
mortise tenon on all 4 sides. And so there's a cavity in there that just makes it really easy to just kind of prop the LEDs in there.
Mm,
And and that's also screwed down with threaded inserts from the bottom. So I think it's going to be really convenient if they ever die. So because of that, it actually makes everything else a lot easier. So that was one of the really complicated things that was a win for this project, when a lot of it felt like overwhelming a lot, and I
sure.
just kind of set myself up for a lot of work.
Yeah, when you realize that you had a good design and there were little parts of it that you didn't even know would come in handy, that's kind of cool. So, but
Yeah.
I think that's important to be able to access the different parts, like especially electrical parts, and because so many people are throwing LEDs and everything, and I
Hmm.
think they don't last forever, right? So,
Yeah.
someday, and with such a big table, such a well built table, you want it to last forever. You want him to take it to his next place,
Right.
and be able to take it apart and bring it. Um, are you nervous at all for install day with the whole getting it into his basement? Do you know him pretty well? Are you going to have some help? What's the logistics on that one?
Yeah, so we haven't really talked about it yet. I do know him well. He's from my high school, and so I knew him going into this. But I am a little nervous because it's narrow, it's tight. I will get help. Um, I always like to think that I'll be able to get on site and have it put together in like an hour or two, like just have everything in place. But I think this one's going to be a multiple day just to make
Okay.
sure
Yeah.
everything's good. Um, but yeah, definitely nervous because yeah, just so many parts, so many hours in each part where man, denting this thing around corners and stuff is just
Terrifying.
top of the fear list right now.
How many moving blankets can you wrap around every single part? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty typical. So, what are the major components that are left? Because I seems like it's coming together pretty quick here.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm done with the 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 legs, the vault part, the actuators are semi-permanently installed. I mean, I think everything other than the leaves right now just need sanding and finish.
Mm-hmm.
And the leaves are really big. So as I mentioned, I had a CNC cut out all the inlay on top. So I had them do a flattening pass on top and then just immediately go into all the inlay cutting. I didn't have them flip that whole slab over and then flatten the backside. In hindsight, I maybe should have, but it was like the first time working with these guys. Like they're a company that makes climbing walls, and so they use Baltic birch a lot, and they cut out patterns and holds, like handholds for the rock wall for the.
Wow.
And so I just went over there to see if they would do a custom thing, and it was a little bit of logistics to kind of squeeze it in and figure out how that was all going to go. And it's the first time like holding a project like this for a local craftsman, and so it was a little spendy at the time, but now I'm like, oh, I should have just had them do it, because now I think I got to go find somebody with a wide belt sander and rent some time and get the other side flat.
Sure.
So that's going to take a little bit. But yeah, it's I can't remember your question.
Yeah, just the big things that are left to do.
Yeah, that's it. So I also have to do like a tenon in between each leaf that fits into a mortise on the next, and so that's like a spill-proof feature.
Okay.
So that's left. Then I'm
full length tenon.
Yeah, it'll leave like maybe 4 inches on each side.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is just so if they are using it as a table and spill something in, it doesn't get on the game underneath, ruin the needle or whatever. Yeah, and then there's like a little bit of patterned inlay that I haven't decided what the color scheme is going to be to kind of match the rest of everything else. So that's got 5 different species of wood inlaid on the top, maybe 6. And so just trying to figure out what's the best way to get that all together. And then, yeah, finish. And we'll see. This might be the first project. I used to be like a stickler. Like I've heard, I've seen a lot of woodworkers out there where they'll finish everything that's visible and then sometimes not finish things that are like on the underside of things or inside of things if it's not really necessary. And I was always just like, why wouldn't you just finish everything and like keep everything consistent with moisture? And this table is like, man, I have to take some shortcuts for like my own sanity.
Sure.
And also just, make sure that the parts that need to be good are really good. And so that's like mentally a hurdle I have to get over here at the end too. Yeah, that's it. We're close.
Yeah. That's super exciting that you're coming that close to the end there and you're talking about finishing and which parts you're going to finish and not, because that means it's real and it's coming down to it.
Yeah.
I'm not quite there, but like I've been doing the same thing where I've been trying to figure out if I need to finish the bottom of my drawers. I don't want to take off the Rockler click-in pieces that are similar to those Bloom click-in pieces that are already installed per each drawer, because they're all tuned already, and like the whole every time I screw in and take out and screw in those little screws, the holes are just getting more and more opened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want to take those plastic pieces off, and I don't want to spray them with finish either. So I think I might just leave those drawer bottoms unfinished, and I don't know that there's a real problem with that with plywood. Like,
I don't think so. I think you're good. For me, it was more of just like a principle. Like I'm sticking to this no matter what, and that, just like a sense of pride about that. And now I'm starting to, I'm getting to my first project where logistically that just doesn't really make sense for a lot of different reasons.
What's worth your time, for sure.
With the bottom of the drawer, I think that's going to be just fine.
I better be fine. That should be. Do you have like a burn-in brand at all? Are you going to do that to your table?
I do. I don't know where I'm going to do it, but I'm definitely going to do it. So I've got that. Since I got that, it was a Christmas gift. I've been putting that on every item I make, including each individual coaster. So that's
like this.
One. Yeah. Did you get a burn? Do you have a burn one?
Yeah.
Brand?
Yeah, I've got 2. I've got one with it's just the WW logo.
Yeah.
And then I've got one where it says Whiskey Woodshop next to it.
Okay.
But the text doesn't always come in good unless it's on like a maple or a walnut where the grain isn't too wide. But like oak, the little thin line text just won't read through.
Sure.
So
yeah. So this table is going to be the first piece of furniture where I'm going to like sign it and say 2023 on it. You know,
are you going to number it?
Well, I'm going to say what year it was and when it was completed for sure. And
number 1 of 9,000. You got a lot of work to do, Brian.
It's going to be different than this. Yeah, 1-1, 1-. Yeah.
There you go. That's super cool though. Like, do you know what's on next though? Are you going for another big project after this? Signing up for another big table?
So I've had inquiries for more gaming tables, and I'm struggling to picture myself as like the gaming table guy forever, but I definitely like it's a really cool project. I think after this, I'm definitely going to be slowing down and getting a little more intentional. This year of commissions and this project specifically has been like just a really draining thing for my own personal reasons, nothing to do with the customer or the table. It's just been a lot, and just like family dynamics, salary coming in because I'm full. This is the first full year that I've been full time in my business, and just kind of seeing how that went. I'm happy with it, but it's time to get more intentional. Like last time we talked about, I updated my About Me section on my website, and that's a lot more clear. I think reads as me and what my goals are. Now I want to start doing that with. It's time to get more selective about the projects I want to take, and a lot of that has to do with figuring out who's a good fit customer wise. Like, let's make sure we understand each other's boundaries in terms of, how often are you going to ask for updates? Where I'm somebody who that slows me down because my people pleasing part of me comes out, and I want to like exaggerate how far along and how fast I'm going to get this done
or rush it so you can get the picture.
Yeah. And so that really affects me way more than I ever realized until this project, honestly. And so I'm going to kind of take a step back and figure out, some like different forms for myself to like fill out and say, okay, does this meet the requirements of a project that's going to excite me the whole way through? And if these types of things that really do slow me down do happen, how can I upfront communicate with the customer what the consequences of that might be, right? So like, we already had a design, we agreed upon a design, and now it's real, and you've given me the down payment, and we're going, and we kind of had like a general idea, and I thought maybe we understood that from here on out, I'm kind of taking my own direction, and I'm going to design it, to be a good overall piece. But then the customer maybe gets cold feet and says, "Oh, like I want to see a little bit more of that before you do it." Well, now I'm going to charge you for that additional time where I'm stopping to communicate to you to make sure that this is what you want when we had already agreed upon something and we had the green light. So it's little things like that, especially on a really big project where I've been working on this for 9 months, every time a little thing like that happens they all add up really fast. And so just coming up with ways to protect my own excitement about a project. And then also another thing that we might have talked about a little bit already, but I'm trying to, YouTube is in my future.
Whether that lock it in.
I know, right? Boy, that's just a scary idea.
Last week you said, I'm thinking about doing YouTube. And then today you said, YouTube is in my future. I just want to point that out. That's progress.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it's happening. And then as there's just like last time we talked about the nervousness of I overplan, I overthink, and gotta make sure that's all good. But at the end of the day, YouTube especially is like a platform where it's encouraged just to get something going and go and try it and see, adjust as it happens. So that's in my future, and like I'm thinking about how I can be the most authentic me in that place. And so is that working on a commission with a customer and like going over, hey, this is how everything happened. I think there's a place for that. I think initially it's more of, hey, I really want to try out this new technique. I want to see what I can do with no limits in terms of like a customer, and see where that takes me for a little bit. And so it's more of I've got lots of different plans. I want to come up, like YouTube is part of creating potentially more things that are passive income in my business too. So if I can get, affiliate links on my YouTube page, that's going to help me over time. Ads on YouTube could help over time if I'm posting enough videos and getting enough watch time. I also want to start doing some plans, or like CAD is one of my skills. Like I'm really proficient at it, and I hope that, I could, make designs that I sell, and like let people have a crack at it, and then coupled with YouTube to follow along and build this thing. So there's a lot more stuff that I want to have in the future, and so after this project, I'm just going to take a break and say, how can I bring some of that forward to today, and just start working on it. So there's a lot.
It blows up when you go to YouTube, because you can do so many things. Like some people focus like merch side, some people focus tools side, some people focus plans side. Like that's what you're talking about here. So, you make a cool new project that people haven't seen before, and hey, here's some plans for $5 or $50 or whatever it is. Like it can be affordable, or it can be like limited, right? To where they're so detailed and so great that people have to spend a lot, or they are accessible, and it's a learning opportunity for both people, because you're making your first sets of plans and they're buying their first set of plans. I've never bought plans on YouTube yet, but I've thought about them. I kind of get stubborn, and I want to do my own thing and figure it. Yeah, I like to get in the same kind of conversations that we're having here, where we have to figure out the design, where going off of a picture is kind of hard for me. So, I was never the kid with Legos following the instructions. I was making something else, and it didn't look great at the end compared to the super cool, Death Star or whatever the Legos are, right? But honestly, like for me, it's more fun to go from scratch. But that's cool, because that's definitely a market out there. The plans.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. Like I'll take it back. I bought one singular plan ever, and it was for a flip top cart. I think that was like King's Fine Woodworking. I just saw their video, and there's a couple parts in it that just made me laugh out loud, and I knew I wanted to make that thing, and so I bought that plan from them. But yeah, normally I see an idea and I'm thinking, ooh, how can I do that myself, and like potentially make it even like a stronger joint, or like, I'm very much that way.
Your needs, depending on how you're going to use it. How can you personalize it to do something that you would rather have than what they made it for? So that's YouTube is so cool, and you're going to have a lot of fun with it, I bet. And my challenge to you is to not be worried to upload, because I think everybody always cringes at their early uploads, because everybody's always learning and getting better. And I guarantee if we watch these back, we're going to maybe cringe at even this episode if we do this long enough, right? So even though it's good content, and I'm still glad we're doing it, I everything grows, and you're always like, oh man, I was doing that, like, ooh, like, but it's all learning. So
at least you started, right? Like that's the thing. A lot of people will allow that potentially being cringy feeling to be the thing that doesn't allow them to start in the first place. And so I agree with you. I think it's cool, and you're gonna have to help me, because the YouTube thing, that's like my own venture, but it would help a lot for you to just be like, you know what, Brian, post that one. You're done. Just post it.
Yeah.
I'm holding
you
you
just gotta
to it.
record. You just record. Yeah, and it sounds like you're doing it for you too, though. So it'll be more driving on your own versus, that we talked a lot about Instagram last week, and having to post for other people and all that. So, and that's kind of the same thing as like updating clients. It's like, feels like when I'm updating my Instagram followers, it's slowing me down, and I want to rush things to make the picture look better and look like I've got it more complete or cleaner or whatever it is. So I think YouTube, it'll let you tell the full story arc of the piece too, and not have to worry about the little updates throughout because it's one big story. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's also like another platform in addition to like this podcast. I think this has been the most natural place so far where I'm just like, here are my inner thoughts, and here are the things that I'm struggling with. I'm really hoping to use YouTube that way too, where it's just like, all right, a lot of my life, like 10 months of my life or more went into this single project. And, not 10 months of labor, but like across 10 months, like a lot happened in my life during this. And, there are ways that the way I had to grow to finish this table, and that sounds like a statement that could be empty, but like for me it's just like so full and rich, and like so much went into me getting into the shop every day to work on this thing that's like so far above design wise, dream wise, like ambition wise for a project that I've ever taken on. Like man, a lot of personal stuff came up. So it's just like, how can I get that story out there? And then at the same time, like I struggle with, is that even valuable to people to share my story and my experience? And I know that it is.
It is.
I know that it is, but it's just, I still get stuck in that thought of like, yeah, who cares? Like I'm struggling, and why do people need to know that I'm struggling?
They are too. Yeah.
And they are too, yeah. And so I'm really like, that's where I'm leaning all that emotion is into YouTube. And I haven't seen other woodworkers out there who are doing that. I've seen other types of media who do a little bit of that. And so yeah, why not a woodworker? We'll see what happens.
That'll be cool to watch. How do you plan on filming? How do you plan on? Do you have like are you gonna go iPhone? Are you gonna go big camera? What's your plan?
So I've been filming everything already with my iPhone. And then my plan is to just use like DaVinci Resolve. It's a free video editing software out there that's pretty intuitive. I like it so far. Just clip everything together, and then I'm gonna get a mic and just kind of talk over the whole thing. So I'm
voiceover, cool
voiceover for the whole thing, and just kind of tell the story, and also talk about, hey, this is what I did for these reasons. And yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll make 2 videos of like, it'll be the exact same screenshot ones. Like, there's a lot of things I want to see, like see what lands with people the best, see if, there's a place to, here's just the build, here's the technical details. If you're not here for the emotion, watch this video. If you are here for like the story of my life and how this is important to it, here's this one. Or, maybe it's woven together. I think that's more interesting, but I think that's a bigger challenge, right? So it's, who knows?
I mean, it's like a documentary in a way, because you were a different person when you started the project.
Absolutely.
With stuff that lasted that long, that's what happens. You learn a lot about woodworking, but then about just like how you like to work and what you value in any project that kind of tests you. So if projects are too easy, they're just fun, right? And you don't really grow. But if you want to throw the thing across the room every once in a while, I think that's when the real progress is made.
Yeah, and that's what's fun for me, even if it sucks at the time. Looking back, I'm like, ooh, that was fun. Yeah, what's
the late nights I was going to ask one more question on that table. You said you know the guy pretty well. What was your process quoting that, and do you think you did it well because you know him well? And the reason why I'm asking is I'm also currently doing a project for somebody I know. It's my sister. We happen to be related. And then I'm looking to quote a project for a friend right now, and I want to do it right, but also land the project.
Yeah. So my that whole, and part of why I'm taking a break is because I had 2 game table inquiries land at the same time that I quoted at the same time and one at the same time. And so that was a little tricky. So the first one was, if you check my Instagram, I know you've seen it.
What's your Instagram?
Boss Man's Boutique.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. Okay.
Yeah. So I call it the Chevron Gradient gaming table. It's pinned at the top of my profile right now. So that one was the first one, and it seemed really complicated at the time. But after I'm done with it, it kind of feels like manageable. Like the design in terms of the functionality is great. The pattern's difficult, but I can figure that out. Now this one had like electronics in it, right? And then this whole new set of variables that introduces, and so I kind of had that other one in mind where I was like, I feel really good about this one that I quoted first, and I ended up not charging enough for that. But it's a portfolio piece, and like super great, and they were great and gave me a lot of freedom.
Nice.
And then this one was quite a bit more complicated, and I just I marked it up a little bit from the other one, and like to a degree where I was like, this is for sure going to cover the difference.
Good enough. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was not at all. Had I gone back to back, I think I would like quoted and built the first one, quoted and built the second one. I think it would have been a lot better if he would have even paid for that price. So I don't know that he would have.
Sure.
And so yeah, working with somebody especially with where we're at, like we're relatively new. It's not like you can't ask 100 woodworkers, and you can't even guess the number of how many would be like, oh yeah, that's Boss Man's and that's whiskey. I think we're at a part where we're still very like word of mouth in our communities known, but not globally or across the nation. So I think when you're at that point, you're just always tempted to try to give a good deal. And
you want them to be just as excited as you are, so that way they can't say no. Like you want to land it.
Yep, you want to land it because it's work and it's there in front of you, and it's exciting you at the time, and so you want to take it. So I think in terms of so my process for quoting is I have a form online that they fill out and kind of give me details, and then I reach back out to them to be like, okay, so this is what I heard from that. Verify that we're kind of going down the right direction, but like let's meet in person and talk about this at least twice. And so I usually meet with them an initial time and kind of just do like sketches, like make sure what are all the things that you want to have here. And I do it in person because it's easier to do sketches right in front of them and say, okay, like that's what I want, not that. And then it just like it helps me to know who they are better. And so that's really the goal. Like the project is almost secondary for me. I'm actually just like soaking up information about the person. Like how do they answer questions? Yeah. Like what's their motivation for the questions that they ask? Like what's, why do they really want this table? Like, is it because it's something that they're going to see every day and just smile and thankful that they have? Or are they having it for hosting, like coming over and, getting people around it? Or is it that type of person who just wants to be like, I have one of these, like,
oh, sure.
There's a lot of different people. And so I really like to get a good sense of that, get a good sense of their style. And then, so then I work on a design, and I've never had it. I know you say you've presented like 1, 2, 3 different things.
Sure.
I typically give one back. and say, all right, based on all your feedback, here's my attempt. And then there's usually one more follow-up, like a reiteration from there. And then I've never had it be where it's not just a green light at that point. So yeah, that feels fortunate for me to say it that way. But yeah, it's all about the person. And so maybe you have a more specific question I can answer, but
no, I mean that was good. Were you in the price side of it because you wanted to land it, and there was the delay? So it's kind of a different situation because you had the delay, and so it might not apply directly to everybody because they're not going to land two of the same projects for two different clients at the same time. But either way, when you're quoting something for somebody you know, are you giving a discount? Do you want to give a discount? And did you need to in order for them to land it?
So for this customer, I felt like I needed to have a discount to land it. I don't know what's true. I mean, he was very clear. Like he was using the wormwood table as an example,
right?
Saying, you know, like I understand going with somebody for a custom design is going to be more money than that, but I don't know how much more, you know, we can make this work. So there was like a little pressure to like, all right, let's do it for an amount that's not significantly more than the wormwood table. But at the same time, this is going to be another portfolio piece for me. And so I want to make it as fancy as I can, and like, you know, as much of like my personality into it as I can, and, you know, see how it performs and, you know, gets the word out there in terms of like social media and things. So it was definitely, and for me, that's another part where it gets confusing of like, okay, can I go back and add cost and but at the same time, it's like, well, I went way above and beyond the scope from my side because I wanted to make it a portfolio piece. So I can't charge you more because I made these decisions. And so that's just a tough place to be. So that's a part of why I'm going to take a break after this one and get some of that stuff together because it's dicey. But yeah, I definitely went too low in terms of like materials. I quoted out almost like perfectly, so I was really happy for that.
Great feeling. Great feeling.
Yeah, labor is just a whole nother thing, and I'm still at the point where it's like no matter how much, it basically comes down to how much am I charging per hour of my labor is like, because at the end of this, I'm still going to make a good amount of money, but 8-9 months worth of good money, no. And I didn't know it would take this long. So there's like a lot of personal stuff that happened, as I explained in there too, that prevented me from getting it done faster. So it's just a hard area. I feel like I'm just not quite experienced enough to like do it the right way. But that's also part of it is like you have to do it the wrong way so you know what the right way is. So you know how to recalibrate. And so that's a lot of what I'm going through and dealing with. So,
yeah. Do you, when it comes to labor, do you track your hours at all?
100%, all of them.
So you track every hour.
Oh yeah.
So the reason I ask is I'm really good at that. Really good at tracking my hours until something takes way too long. And then I'm like, well, it wouldn't have taken that long if this hadn't happened. So I shouldn't track that because like that was just a fluke. So, and then, or like I'm really tired because I was just fixing something and I just forget to log the hours. And then I go, you know, come inside and do my normal night. And then the next night I'm in the shop and I'm like, oh, I didn't log hours yesterday, but it was probably like, you know, 4 hours or whatever it was. And then I'm doing my work and I'm mad at this thing again, probably the same thing I was fixing last night. And then I don't log hours that night. And now it's 2 nights and now screw the whole project. Hours don't matter anymore. And I just need to get it done. So I've done that on 2 or 3 projects now where I've been really good through like 10, 12, 15 hours. And like I write the date, what I did, you know, how many hours it took, and then the total, like the running hours. And then I used to try to do it by like rate, because I was gonna, at one point I thought, this is early when I made the form that I write everything on. I thought I would separate like, okay, milling is X amount per hour, and then detail work or whatever, like, buying materials, like I track how long it takes me to go get the wood and everything. I used to think I would separate all that, and then that blows everything up, and it's easier to just pick up what am I worth an hour right now, and that can change. So I need to be better about tracking the hours, like dead on the whole time. But as soon as you mess it up, it's really easy to just screw it. So
I totally, I understand the feeling of like, I screwed this up, and so I can't charge for the time that I'm fixing this screw up. But that, but that's part of what goes into making the thing.
Right.
It's just part of it.
I need to plan on the screw ups better.
Yeah, right. But and I think that's what part of why I say I'm not quite experienced enough is like, I don't know, for a project that's going to be 350 hours, like this table, or I think that's going to be around the final number. I don't know how many screw ups I'm going to have across 350 hours. If it's a 40-hour cabinet, I think I'm going to screw up big once, and a couple minor ones, and that's easy to quote for. But yeah, 350 hours is just a very different thing, and so you only know until you've done one that long what that's going to look like. So it's tough. But yeah, for a friend, so yeah, quoting for a friend, that's like a whole nother thing too that we could go a little bit deeper into, where you're because it's somebody I think it is appropriate sometimes to give them a discount, but I think that's only true if you know for a fact that they're going to be like a super fan and like talk about you and tell all their friends that they had a really good experience, and so that's a big thing that goes into it too.
It's like friend versus acquaintance. Like they need to actually be your friend in order to give that discount, and you have to be excited to have them have the piece, not just make the piece. Like you want to be able to go over someday back to their place and see that piece again, or know that people are going over to their place and seeing it, or might want it. Or I had a friend reach out wanting a credenza type thing. They've seen the Manhattan cabinet that I was doing, and I don't have a ton of details. I know they want two drawers and two doors. So I'm like, okay, is that a dresser? There's a lot of open stuff, but he sent a message and said, I've been wanting to buy something from you, and I'm mean to have it forever, so I'm willing to pay a pretty penny. And I saw that at the end, and I was like, okay, what's a pretty penny? Like, because we could go to IKEA right now and get you something that you could keep forever if you're nice to it.
And everybody's going to have a way different definition of what a pretty penny is.
Right. So it just scares me, and I need to be bold enough to be like, what's your budget? Because I don't want to waste your time. And, I don't want to make a bunch of renders if it's never going to happen anyway, if the pretty penny definition doesn't match. And kind of like you said, I had brought up to you that I normally send about 3 different renders, and that's typically to like the commercial type customers, so the breweries and distilleries. And that's because we meet about once, not twice. And sometimes we don't even meet, it's all email. So then by not having that chance to actually get to know what they want, because everybody just says mid-century modern, bespoke, walnut, like that's like the
pretty classic
furniture, like so okay, I could go everywhere with that. So then I make one design that I want to make. Like the first one I make is, this is what I would want to build, and I could sell to other people. Like this would be like kind of like a signature thing. And then I go far one way, like make it weird. Like I just add components that don't necessarily make sense, but they could make sense. Like it's more of like the concept based, like, okay, some shelves around here or something. Like whatever the piece is, it might change. And then I go the opposite direction where it's like, okay, this doesn't even have that. This is very minimalist, and I try to go the other direction. So I kind of shoot the gap in the middle of what I think most people would want, and then I go far out, and then I just say which components of each one are your favorite, and then I'll combine them into one thing. And then I can kind of try to think. That's my way of trying to go outside the box by going just like I've sent renders of stuff that I don't think anybody should buy because I'm like, this looks a little weird, but like it would be functional, and I could try to dress it up. And I try to be pretty clear with that when I send that. I'm like, I'm spitballing here. Anything that catches your eye that would be different and cool for you in your, mostly the businesses. That's where those happen. So where it starts with the function on those, and then I can make anything kind of look clean, at least with mid-century modern walnut. So
that's cool. That's a cool way, because you get a balance of, I mean, you're almost guaranteed to get a balance through that process of something that you want to build, you're excited about, something that's going to make the customer really happy, and then is also like perceived as trendy. Like you guarantee that you get a little bit of all of that, and if that's what you like, that's a great system.
Yeah, I just don't want to make the exact same thing other people are making, right? So I try to throw some stuff out, and if it doesn't stick, then hey, we'll go back to the basics here. But how far can we take it? What kind of features are special to your application? So it's kind of where I think.
Cool.
But it doesn't always work. And when you get somebody who sends you a picture and says, "Make this," okay, I will do that. So
So what's next for you?
I'm not sure. Hopefully I can sit down with this friend and make him commit to a pretty penny, and see what happens there. Other than that, I just need to get some finish on these doors, get them to the custom glass shop, and then pick away at the last. I think I got about 2 weeks and it'll be delivered, give or take. And then
timeline that's not rushing yourself.
What was that?
2 weeks is a timeline where you're not rushing.
So I have every part cut except for the top back panel needs that round cut, but it's glued up, so it's basically done, right? And then I got to do the leg assembly, and that's what I'm going to do right after this. I'm going to go back in and work on the legs. I've made them before 3 different times, so it's just going to be like how did I do this again? And then get back into it, figure it out, just get in the groove. Hopefully I can, that flow state. I'm looking to find that tonight, so that'll be good.
Okay, awesome.
Once I have all the parts made, then we're done. So.
I envy your energy to do more work after 7 p.m. That's incredible.
This is my prime time.
6 years makes a big difference.
What does? No.
6 years.
No, it's just I think about it all day at work. It's the anticipation, and then it's like that dopamine release.
You got to get the idea out.
Yeah. If I didn't have a plan, like if I didn't know, actually, okay, so I kind of lied. I might not get to the legs. I need to get finished on those doors, like I said. But that'll be step 1, and then if I'm still feeling it, I'll start the legs. But because I've been anticipating it all day, it's way easier to get that work in. So
sure.
I think if I can just think ahead, everything's easy.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, I find myself, the more I think ahead, the more pressure I add on myself.
You just think about it. Trying to think how to change that, make a mental shift there. It works better if like you haven't done it before or something. I don't know. Or if it's exciting.
Yeah, if it's exciting, that's the thing. Yeah. As long as it's something that you're like, wow, I can't wait to do that. It's going to be energizing. Okay.
Here's another mental shift here. I don't know if you like sanding. Nobody really likes sanding that much, right? But I've just been really dreading that part of this because it's just a lot of surfaces, and it's just time. You have way more surfaces, so I shouldn't even talk. But this 96 by 62 inch table, is ginormous. But last night I was in there and I was like, okay, I'm going to sand for 5 minutes and just see what happens. And then I got in the groove, and then I sanded for like 2 hours, and it was just like once you're in the groove, you're there. But some days, no, I'm not into it. But others, you can find it.
Sanding's like one of my favorite parts because I've made it my favorite part. I get a audiobook. I get a chair. I'm never standing when I sand.
I only stand in the shop. I don't sit.
I get a chair. Make sure that I'm seated at a comfortable height. Got an audiobook, and go to town. So sanding's that's like mental growth, reflection time. That's primo. That's the best part of everything.
Mine is, oh my gosh, where did this scratch come from, or this tear out, or
it happens.
That's my sanding. I'm like, what? Because normally I'm not looking that close. I kind of like it's just a piece.
Yeah.
But then once you're sanding, you actually see everything, and you're like, dang it, like this.
So that absolutely is happening at the same time. But I think because I've got my mind so engaged in something else, it removes a lot of the judgment when I come across that flaw. And then I'm like, oh, that's a flaw. Let's just fix it quick.
Yep.
And like it's way easier to do it because my mind's like happy with something else than coming across it. And that's the thing I'm focusing on. Because now I'll just be like, oh, I can't believe I did that. And so just audiobook, music, whatever is like that solves everything for me.
Are you doing like nonfiction audiobooks, fiction, anything specific?
Let's see. Yeah, so both. I'm a big fantasy book reader.
Cool.
That's like my favorite genre by a lot. So the most recent fantasy book that I just listened to was Name of the Wind. Does that ring a bell?
Okay.
I
read them. I read them nonstop in middle and high school, but then I just kind of fell out. But I could get back into it. Name of the Wind? Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's a high magic kind of one where the magic system's based on like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like a little more science based. Like,
okay,
I like that a lot. Where the magic is based on the physics of the world and knowledge, obviously.
Yeah.
But so I do a lot of fiction. I'm also listening to the 4 Hour Work Week right now. Heard of that book? So that's good for me right now. So I do a little bit of self-help stuff. I do fiction. I do not very much non-fiction like storytelling. That's not my thing at all. Yeah. What do you do to like? Do you ever intentionally pass the time on the hardest parts of your projects, or just in life in general?
I mean, in life in general, I'm always listening to something just to cover everything else up, right? But that's
why it's here, right?
Exactly, right. In the shop, it is always a podcast. I don't have music on unless I'm like so done with podcasts, which just rarely happens, or if people are around, then it's weird for me to listen to a podcast. Like, I don't know. I just, if anybody's around, like that can hear it, I'm like, okay, this music is the right choice here. So I just listen to podcasts, like all kinds of them, like science ones, comedy ones, woodworking ones. But then at work, if I'm just crunching data or anything, like if I'm going through a pile of data or need to generate if it's anything monotonous that I can kind of do, I'll do audiobooks. So I do a lot of the business type audiobooks and then other like creative type ones. I listen to, what's it called? It's Rick Rubin's book. I think it's called Create or something. And he's the guy. I'm going to get details wrong in telling you this, but
I know what you're talking about, Bo. Yeah, we can always put it in the notes.
Yeah, so he did the Death Row Records is the producer there, I think. And so he's produced a ton of different bands, and he just talks about like the art of creating and like what goes into creation and like what is like being creative and like good ideas and like how to get in mindsets and everything. And so that it's just a cool outlook on what he's learned. And so he's been really popular recently. So that was really good. And so I have it's a work notebook. Sorry if anybody from work is hearing me, but it's a work notebook and I just have it like next to me and it looks like I would have like my work notes in it, but I do that all on OneNote. So I just have audiobook notes in this notebook and I'm going to have a whole notebook full of just audiobook notes by the end of the year, probably.
So you take notes for audiobooks. That's awesome.
Oh, hardcore notes. So like I did that. I did Atomic Habits. I thought that was a pretty decent one. Then I've tried other sales ones because I think that's one of my business weaknesses is sales. So like Fanatical Prospecting I listened to. I listened to the Pumpkin Plan. That one was okay. Just like there are these business books that are like how to read like outreach and market. One Page Marketing Plan was okay. Other marketing books. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. There's another one I was meaning to tell you that was really good. Oh, the best book I think I've read, this one I read hardcover, was Guitar Lessons by Taylor. What's his name? His last name's Taylor. He created the Taylor guitar, which I don't have any of them. But so it's his whole story of like him falling in love with woodworking in high school, like in shop, and then him creating his first guitar as like an apprentice in somebody else's shop, him barely scraping by for so many years, like with the love of building guitars, and then how he scaled and bought and like worked on manufacturing. And then now it's like one of the most well-known brands. And he gets into sales a little bit. He has like a business partner who does a lot of sales. And so that book to any like woodworker, small business, I would recommend Guitar Lessons, and because it's like exactly what we're talking about in a book. So it's pretty sweet.
Awesome. I'm definitely going to check that out. That's cool. You're plugged in for. Do you find a lot of people your age are like actively seeking knowledge, like outside of their job, like you are?
I don't know. You do, which is why I wanted to have these conversations with you.
Yeah, no, I think that's why we're a super good fit. But I think, that's really cool. Like your age, I wasn't doing that as actively or intentionally. Okay. So that's super cool. Like that's super cool to see.
Well, I think it's all the knowledge is out there. All I have to do is listen to it. And if I've got the time, like if I'm not taken away from something else, like if I've got work that I can do and listen to an audiobook, and here are the 3 steps to a good sales call. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Write the note down. Keep working. So it's just I don't know. I try to be a learner. I wasn't that good. Like I didn't love school. Like I was always fine, like good grades, but like I didn't actually enjoy it. And then now that I'm out of it, I want to go learn. So
that's awesome. I'm trying to think. You just said your feelings about school, and I'm like, I think school is fine.
Yeah, I mean, my friends were there, so I went.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Yeah. So the Guitar Lessons, I'm definitely gonna check that out. Awesome.
I'm probably gonna maybe I'll listen to it because reading just feels like I'm wasting time because I'm always on it.
Yeah. And I find myself too, like if it's a good podcast where I'm trying to learn, I have to not be multitasking.
Right.
But every once in a while, when I need to like get through something that's really challenging for me, then I have to be multitasking. So my mind's over there. I'm not struggling so hard on the thing that I'm wanting to make progress on. And so it's just like counterintuitive, but that's a thing I'm finding out this last couple of weeks.
Early in the project though, for sure. Like if I'm listening to a intense podcast, like you're talking about, like something that's about, I don't know, real thoughts, not something stupid like a comedy podcast or whatever. If it's like if the podcast has substance and I'm trying to figure out anything like dimensions or something, I get like this anxiety or this like heat in my body where I'm like listening to this, but I'm trying to figure this out. And I just like freak out for a split second and I just have to pause it, figure it out, play it, and then I'm good. Like it's just I hit this moment where I try to hold on to the podcast for too long.
Yeah.
And I know I need to shut it off just and figure this out real quick and then I'm good. So
yeah,
I don't know if other people have that, but
information overload. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure. Yeah, it probably comes about different ways for different people, but that's you got good self-awareness.
Well, I try, not with everything. Everybody
Yeah,
has their
everybody's got
their
their
thing.
Yep.
Anything else you want to touch on today? Sounds
Yeah,
like we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, we've got plenty of work to keep us busy for a while. No, I think that'd be cool if anybody wanted to know more about our projects that we've got going on. But other than that, no, I think we hit a lot of stuff. What are we at? Hour and 25 minutes. It's pretty good.
Yep. It's been recording the whole time. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Well,
cool.
I guess we'll chat next week, and your table will be delivered by then. So I'm excited to hear how that went.
Yeah, we've got 3 weeks of just finished. So yours though, in 2 weeks, you said that was your goal.
Yeah, you can quote me on it. That's fine. I think.
No, don't rush.
No, I won't rush. It depends on when I get the finish on because I want to give it the full time to cure. So with Rubio, it's easy to be like it's done and deliver it, but I want to give it the full time. So it might be 3 with the cure time, but yeah.
Well, sweet.
Well, Brian, it was nice talking to you. Glad we will never run out of stuff to talk about, and I look forward to the next one.
Yep. You make it easy, man. It's fun talking to you too.
I'll see you next time.
Yep. Bye. See you next week.
Thanks for tuning in this week. We'd be having these conversations with or without you because we get a lot of value out of this and we learn and grow together, but we're glad that you're here as well.
Yes, please let us know what you think of the podcast by leaving a review or a rating, but also comment or share with your friends in the woodworking or small business community. I'm Matt from Whiskey Woodshop.
And I'm Brian of Boss Man's Boutique.
Thanks for
listening.